morning, podcast world. I am Man Dan. This is episode 7, coming from you at BetaWave Studios, and I'm joined by the amazing, the sensacious, my beautiful co-host.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, DeVaughn Taylor, a.k.a. Daddy Disco on Twitter and Instagram. And, yeah, we're back.
It's so good to be back, and we are back with the very lovely, very sensational, very, very entertaining Sam Barbera. Well, how do you pronounce that?
Sam Barbera. Like Hanna-Barbera, the famous, cartoon conglomerate, but a lot less money.
Everyone's favorite cartoon conglomerate.
Yeah.
Did everyone ever call you Sam the Barbarian, like middle school or anything like that?
I think so, yeah.
Was that that's a badass nickname.
It was a little traumatic as a kid, but I made it through.
I love that you, just clarified her last name, 10 minutes ago. And then that was, the hardest stumble I've ever seen.
Well, so I think we all know this. The second anything happens, as soon as the cameras roll, I forget everything I've learned, anything that's happened. I'm like, I got to be on, and then I forget everything that's happened. So my bad, Sam.
Oh, I don't mind it.
Yeah. Well, she should clarify.
No, it's all good. This is, I love that we have this progression with these interviews because, the first one, we had Nick. We both knew Nick, and it was all, one thing. Then with Izzy, you knew Izzy, and I didn't. So this is a, completely cold interview, essentially.
It's a cold call. They were just dialing random numbers in the white pages.
Thank God Sam answered and picked up the line.
Yeah,
it's the start of the new year, and she didn't have a lot on her plate. So she's graciously here with us, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Amen. So tell us about it. We're back here, 2022, starting off the new year. What are you kind of excited about for this new year? I know you are super busy. You have so much going on, but tell us something that you're excited about for the start of this new year.
Yeah. Well, first, going into the new year, I'm super excited. I have a really, really cool remix of my recent single, Broke, a remix by St. Lucia that's coming out. That comes out this month.
When does that drop?
It's funny you should ask because I'm actually figuring that out now because I'm trying to work into the NFT space.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
I'm working on maybe doing it there first. So I might be pushing it back, but I think it would still be January.
Hell yeah. How much ETH do I have to get to maybe jump on this NTF game?
I
do
you want to buy? Yeah. Oh, you want an Ridge? Well, you can. I think with these, I've had some friends sell songs on Web3, and I think it's multiple people. It's shareholders, own a piece of it. So it's not like they sell it's pretty cool. It's all this new territory, right? So it's kind of this great unknown.
We're figuring out as we go.
Yeah.
Do you own any NTFs, Dev?
Oh, no. NFTs are still another language to me currently.
I'm pretty sure people that are experts in it have no idea what's going on with them either, or what they are, or how it works. So who cares, man?
It's really
making money.
Yeah, that's the thing is especially for musicians, it's a really interesting way to make money. For these, through this one NFT company, basically, with artists, they sell, each song so far has been it's $10,000 worth of Ethereum that the artist makes for a song on Web3.
Jeez.
And it's multiple people that are shareholders in this song. And it's wild. And it's also interesting because a lot of times it doesn't even have any ownership in Web 2, which is what we know, right? So I can sell something on Web 3,
right?
And somebody owns a piece or something of it there, but I can release it on Spotify still, and it's a totally different. It's all mine still.
Well, nobody listening to this knows anything you just said, but guess what? There's a new remix coming out, and we cannot wait. And maybe you could buy something, and you don't know what it is. So we're excited.
I kind of see it as I don't know. It's because I feel the same way about NFTs. It's like when people talk about stocks and stuff, and that feels like kind of like almost what it is, like art and stocks. Like I was just watching Wolf of Wall Street again the other day, and like that just now sounded like Matthew McConaughey when he's like explaining stocks to Leo. He's like, when it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. Woo!
Yeah.
He's like, I was like, yep.
Like, that rings a bell.
It's just exciting, you know what I mean? We're on a roller coaster ride to digital
Totally.
wonderland.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be like fast though, because I didn't really know much of anything recently, and then you just kind of get thrust into it.
Yeah.
It's taking over. We're all gonna be talking about it in like 6 months.
Well, speaking of songs and projects, you're in the Beginners, and that's more of your solo.
Beginners
gig
is
with
like
you, right?
Beginners is like it's my artist project. It's my main artist project, and I'm like the primary writer in Beginners.
You're making most of the content.
Yeah, I'm making most of it, but I do have like I have a live band that I've been with like basically from day one, and then we also work on some of the songs together, which is nice. And especially I have a new album that I'm gearing up for releasing this year, which they've like contributed a ton on, which is exciting.
Kind of like a Tame Impala workflow.
Yes,
like Kevin,
exactly.
does most of this stuff, but then the touring band does come in and
Yes,
like
100%.
in the studio and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah.
I would say, I like that.
You definitely seem cooler than Kevin Parker. I'll just say that right now.
Is he not cool?
No, he seems like cool, but like just kind of like oh, this guy just only cares about music and stuff. It seems like you got some other stuff going on. Yeah, it's you got a cool vibe. I mean, don't you think? I feel like I'm.
She definitely has a
in the
cooler
wrong room.
speaking voice than Kevin Parker does. I love you have a great rasp for the podcast game. So
Thank you.
it was nice having you on there. And like I don't know, Kevin Parker, like he seems very cool and he's a very talented guy, but he also seems like he'd be playing his music while we're hanging out. It's like the vibe that I kind of
do. You like, hey, you gotta hear this
No,
new
that's
track.
my worst nightmare. But I've had friends, like a lot of like, I feel like there's like certain genres of music where it happens more. Like any of my friends who were ever rappers, 100% that's what happened.
Yes.
It's like literally we didn't even ask to hear the song. They put it on and they not only we're just trying to have a normal hang. They put on the song
and then they start rapping.
They rap the whole song to you.
So it's dinner and
if it's
show?
like a record, they'll rap the whole thing. Every rapper I've ever hung out with. It's like bananas.
See, Sam, you need to be doing this. You need to be playing your song and then singing it in front of an audience.
I will say the rappers that did that are huge now.
Yeah, hello.
So I'm like fucking up.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, if you can't vibe out to your stuff, then who will?
Exactly. You got to sell it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of modesty, Sam, too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that any of these people weren't modest, but I get it. Sometimes you're like, oh, look, watch this thing that I did. Like, this is great. But you're like, you don't, I feel like the selling is maybe not your forte. You're a creator. You're not a salesperson, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't want to be. I feel like it's like an interesting time, though, because I do feel like those days
Hawking
are
yourself
over.
is
You have
important,
to,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, I mean the landscape is so different
Yeah.
right now, and I mean especially things like accelerating in the past couple of years that artists are kind of having to take a little bit more into their own hands and stuff
Yeah.
in the way that they're doing. Like you had a pretty busy 2021. Like you had an EP, and then you also had like multiple singles and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
what did you like have anything different in like your workflow going into like this past cycle of music?
Yeah, like from last year, like what? I
Yeah.
mean, I guess going into last year, well, one big thing for me was just like last year my big goal was like delegation. Because there are so many different aspects that like as an artist you have
You
to
can't do it
take
all.
on. Yeah, and I was like so overwhelmed and I was doing everything myself and I'm an independent artist as well, so like it was just a lot. So going into last year, I was like, I'm delegating. So I got like a management team. Which I had like sort of played around with, like, potentially working with people, but I never really just like did it. And I got a management team and I got a team to help work the record and all this stuff and kind of I basically created my own label for the whole year, like a team of people the same that like a label would have.
Yeah.
And that was like a really big change from how I had done it in the past.
Yeah.
Which is just like flying by the seat of my pants and like,
And I mean, when you're a very centric, especially like on a solo project, per se. It's like it's hard not to want to have like your finger on top
Totally.
of everything, and it's like kind of hard to like be like, like at the end of the day, of course you're going to trust yourself the most when you're like kind of doing something like that. But so it's like, it is like a big step to be like, okay, I need to bring in these kind of people and surround myself with like the best team possible.
Yes. And I will say, and my team's like awesome, so this isn't a reflection on them, but I heard a quote from it was like a business or real estate podcast or something, and they were talking about like scaling your business. And as an artist, it's still like a business, so I'm like thinking about, okay, like how do I like get to these next levels and stuff as an artist. And one thing that they said that was really interesting on there, the guy was talking about how delegation, and basically saying that if you are delegating a task to somebody, like you decide, okay, I'm going to have like a team to help me, and you delegate a task, even if they do it worse than you would have done it, that's still better. And I think that was like important.
Because you were wasting your time,
because
right?
you need to focus on like the higher level stuff. You need to focus on like what specifically you are bringing to the table. That's like, that is like your area of specialization or whatever. And that was really interesting for me to like process, because I'm like, okay. Because that is true. It's like, you're like, well, they're not going to know it as well as I do. Like, I know how to do it. And when I heard that, like, no, even if they do it worse than you would have done it, you still need to do that, because it's still better than not delegating.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting.
It's optimizing like your energy,
Yeah.
It's like, we all have a finite amount of time and energy. It's like, when you can pipeline it into the things that you do
Totally.
need
Like,
to
what's
focus
it best
on.
served doing? Yeah.
So was letting go of some of that control better for you this last year? Like doing all that delegation, maybe it was hard at first, but do you feel like, hey, I got more done, I created more, or did some positives came out of it?
Oh, yeah. I definitely, like, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
You look so happy.
I'm thinking.
You're glowing. I'm not going to lie. It's not the lighting. You're literally glowing.
Yeah, I am like happy with how it turned out. And one thing that was interesting is I was like, oh, if I delegate, if I get these teams around me and stuff, that's gonna take my workload down. One interesting thing was I was like, oh no, now I have like also somehow more work than ever. That was interesting.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's because I finally had a team of people around me going, oh, I need you to do that. I need this from you. These things that like I just normally would like blow off or not do,
Yeah, the accountability.
Yes,
yeah.
I had more accountability, and because they were like moving all these things, you can't like totally drop out of it. You still have to like.
There's somebody poking you and be like,
Yeah.
we gotta take
I was
care
like,
of
damn,
this.
I'm working harder than ever.
Well, that's good though. You got so much done. You had, I mean, honestly, like just doing a little bit of research, you had a crazy successful year.
Thanks.
And like you have a whole team now. But let's take a little trip in the time machine
Let's do
back
it.
to Indiana. That's where you grew up,
Yeah,
right? You
yep.
started playing guitar around what, maybe 12, 11?
Yeah,
What made
yeah.
you pick up that guitar? Did you see a movie? Did you see a band, a CD?
Both my parents are musicians.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
so my dad was a guitar player, but like they played in bands together. Like my mom and my dad like opened up for like Buddy Guy and all this stuff, and they played in these blues bands together.
No way. So were you guys going to like the nearest big town to like you would go with them to go to these shows, or like
Yeah,
what was
I
kind
would
of the
go.
vibe?
I would go with them to their shows, and then my mom was also they were both songwriters. My mom was like trying to like get a deal and stuff like that. So
Oh my god.
I grew up like she would go to these there were like songwriting meetings of Indianapolis. So all the songwriters would go and they would like play songs they're working on, and then everyone would give like constructive feedback, and I would just be like sitting there doing my homework, like ignoring it. But I do wonder sometimes if it like
No,
sunk
absolutely.
in there, right?
You sucked in some info.
Totally.
Like you totally do. Your
it was
little
like
child
getting
brain.
it was like getting free workshops.
Free workshops, baby. Yeah.
That's so cool. So
Yeah.
you probably inherited a lot of that from your parents,
Yeah.
right? Like I think it's just genetics. You're made to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't mean to get into music, but yes. I think
What
so.
do your parents say now? I know you recently visited them over the winter break,
Yeah.
right? So are they fan guy and girling over you over all this stuff, or are
Yeah.
they're kind of like whatever, like we could have done it too, but we had you and you ruined our life.
Or was it like the movies where it's like, oh, we don't want you to be a musician.
Yeah, you
It
can
is-
pick something better.
Be a lawyer or a
Totally.
doctor.
It's interesting. No, my parents are like so supportive. My whole family is so supportive. And I had an interesting like breakthrough moment actually with my dad. At one point in my career, like maybe 10 years ago, I guess a little bit less than that, but I was just at a point where I've been at it for so long, and I was like, it just seemed like an uphill battle, you know? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like trying to, because the whole time that I've been like pursuing a music career, I had always had like full-time jobs too. So I'm like, but it was hard to find full-time jobs where then I could also just tour whenever, at the drop of a hat, whenever we happened to get like a sick tour.
Most places I would feel wouldn't.
Exactly.
be
So I
so-
ended up
yeah.
having like crazy jobs, like working for a porn director, which I'll tell you later.
Oh my god! Okay.
I know.
Yeah, we're no.
After this story, yeah. So like I had these crazy jobs because I always had to have like super random shit that would let me do that.
Yeah, you could leave for a month or like
Yes.
whatever. We'll see you when you get back.
Exactly, yeah. And so I'd kind of hit my wit's end, and I got this, like my first like corporate job basically. And I was just an executive assistant, but I was like so excited about it. I was going to be working for Electronic Arts.
Oh, cool.
And I called my dad and I was like, yeah, you know, like I really have been thinking like it might just be time to like pack it in. You know,
I got
was
this
like,
job,
yeah,
maybe
I was
it's
like,
it.
yeah, because I was worried I was going to get a tour and then have to quit this job, you know? And I was like, I feel like I've given it a shot and like I'm ready for stability. And like all my friends are now in stable positions in their life. And I'm like still floating around like a psycho. And I thought my dad was going to be like, oh, phew, like, thank God, you know?
I don't have to worry about my daughter anymore.
Yeah, totally, you know? And it was so interesting. And he was like, because my dad dropped out of like corporate America when he was like 40 and just played like $100 gig a night until he died. He like just dropped out and he's like, nope, I love guitar and this is what I want to do, even if I'm poor.
Wow.
And that's what he did, like, till he died. So I was like talking to him, and instead of like him having like a sense of relief, he's like, you absolutely cannot quit. He was like, you're so close. You have no idea. He's like, and I know you feel old, but you're young. He's like, you don't want to end up like me in my like 60s trying to go out there and make it still. You know, knowing that I'll never be able to go back in time and do it even though I could have. And I was just like, oh, shit.
I literally have goosebumps. I'm about to cry. This is so touching.
It was like really powerful for me.
I mean, and it's so refreshing too because
Yeah.
like I come from the Midwest and like I
Yeah.
tell people a lot like that is such a Midwest, like the opposite is the Midwest mentality of
Yes.
like, you know, parents like pretty much tell you like you need to have a career, married,
Yeah.
and maybe a kid by the time you're 25, and
Yeah.
like and they make it out to seem like if that doesn't happen, then like
Yeah.
that you're falling behind or you're late or something.
Yeah.
So like that is like literally like the opposite of like, you know, a typical Midwest parent. So it's like that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It has to feel
Yeah.
so good to be supported, and that was literally a life-changing convo.
Oh, yeah.
for you. For
yeah, I was
reals.
like ready to stop.
So
Yeah.
just real quick, did you quit that job after that and like took a tour recently, or you kind of just thought about it more? Like
No, when I did it, I just kept the job, and I was like, well, and I just kept doing music, and I was like, well, I'll cross that bridge when it comes, and kind of just the way the universe works out. Like I ended up when I was working there, the band that I was in broke up, and so then I was like starting new stuff, and it was just like the interim that I was there, like. I played shows, but we didn't have any tours. And I had been going for like, before that, it was like tours all the time.
right.
So it just kind of like worked out, where I didn't have to quit at the time.
Yeah, it was just that turning point because this is still pre-beginners.
Yeah, this is
right,
pre-beginners.
At this point.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
like the point of no return, like moment of like, okay,
Yeah.
no, we're going forward, and like kind of gave you that, you know, that second win to
Yeah.
like really kind of dive in.
Because you could have stopped after that band broke up. You could have been like, screw it, I'm just going to work this
Yeah.
job and give this job
Totally.
100%. But you started Beginners
Yeah.
a little while later.
I know. I'm trying to think of which I started. I think I started a hardcore punk band.
Well, that's always been your
next.
dream, right?
And then I did Beginners. I
Because
think.
you were in the punk scene growing
Yeah.
up in Indiana, so you've always wanted a punk band.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
When are we gonna make this? Can we get a punk? You already have what?
I had one,
You're in
yeah.
5 bands right
I
now,
know,
right?
like
What's the
too
6th
many.
one? Yeah,
I
screw
know.
it. Let's do a punk band.
I know. Yeah, I just like last year actually, we kind of took like a little bit of a hiatus. Like a hardcore punk band that I was in for years called Holy Fever.
Oh hell yeah!
We were supposed to play Punk Rock Bowling. It's like a big festival in Vegas, but it was like fall. It was like COVID stuff. And it was just like, I don't know, man.
It's all too much. It's
So
everything's
much.
so heavy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
should I go play this show and maybe kill a whole room full of people?
Totally.
I'm not sure. We
Yeah.
should do it.
I know.
Bowling though, I'm in. I love. But yeah, so you started Beginners a little while later, and then
Yeah.
you just started LA Exes. This
Yeah.
was recent, like last
Yeah, that was last year.
year, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of your big starter projects.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
was
this
a
is
big
super
year
fun,
for LAXs.
Fun one with a bunch of your friends, or you didn't know them before. How did that?
It was
happen?
like it was we all kind of knew this producer Jake Sinclair, who's like incredible. He's like you
Shout
know, he
out to
does
that
like
dude.
yeah, shout out to that guy. He's in like Panic at the Disco, Weezer.
Oh, fun.
He's worked with all sorts of people. And he actually approached each one of us individually and was like, "Hey, I've always had this like dream project that I would like love to produce a record, and like, does that sound interesting to you?" Like, and which was basically like this kind of like throwbacky like Beatles, but if the Beatles were all women.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I listened to it, and
Yeah.
it's so fun. It's very like 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Splash with sunshine, but your guys' harmonies are amazing.
Oh, thanks.
And like it sounds like a female Beach Boys or something
Yes,
like that.
yeah,
It's
totally.
super fun.
Yeah, it's like super influenced by like all that like Beach Boys, Beatles.
And that's popular right now. Like that
Shangri-Las.
kind, like that's having a resurgence. Like that
Yeah.
kind of music.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah, people
it's
people
fun.
definitely want feel good music right now.
Yes,
Love to
yeah,
feel
we
good.
need it.
I need
Like-
something to give me light in the darkness.
Yes, we definitely need it. But yeah, so he kind of came to me and I was like the Paul McCartney, right? Because I play bass and sing. And then he came to.
Oh, you are definitely a Paul. For
I'm
sure.
Paul McCartney. And then Ginny Owen Youngs, who's the other singer. She's the John Lennon. So she plays guitar and sings lead with me. And then we have like Rachel White, who's like the George Harrison, plays guitar, also sings, has like a song on the record. And then our drummer, Steph Barker, is our Ringo. She
Ringo
also
thought he was
sings,
so cool.
has her song on the record. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that like interchangeability. You know, it just like kind of adds like extra layers of texture to your guys' like body of work as a whole. Like
Yeah.
Local Natives is like a big one of my favorites that kind of does a similar
cool.
thing where it's like there's two lead singers, one
Yes.
person will come in sing another song,
So
switch
nice.
instruments mid show or something.
I love it. And it's also nice to take a little break on stage.
Well, it seems like a
You're
fun.
like, you got this one. I'm just gonna like play bass on it
I'm
and
just
not
gonna
have to
back
be the
here,
person. Yeah, it's kind of nice to like
yeah, you
dip
can,
out
like,
for a minute.
Yeah, dip out, charge up for a second, and then
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
and then you get to hop back in it.
Yeah.
I feel like a project like that maybe even breathes a little bit of life into your work and other aspects, right?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
You're like, it's like it inspires you again, maybe.
Yeah, it did. Like, it's really nice to have like different, creative outlets
Keeps it
because they
fresh,
do.
right?
Yeah, because like you otherwise you like kind of burn out on this like same
Mm-hmm.
thing. If you're working on the same genre, the same stuff, like
And they can influence each other. What this doing something with the gals over in
Yeah.
LAX may influence
totally
something in the
gives you
Beginners.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, like if something be like, hey, maybe that wouldn't work here, but I can take this and then
Yeah.
like let me try it out in this other one.
Yeah, and it's also nice because like for beginners, we have like a lot going. Like it's like so much electronic elements, which is super fun. I mean, we all play like guitar and stuff in it as well, but there's so much electronics. And one thing that was nice about like doing LAXs, especially like when we like playing shows with LAXs, is like
I'm dying to
you're
see
like
a show.
back to the. You're
Yeah.
like no, it's just like
Bare bones,
we're
all
bare bones.
instruments
It's just
and-
instruments,
Basics,
and there's
baby.
no like laptop, and there's no like backing tracks, and there's like nothing like that. And we're like, no, there's 4 harmonies on the record. We're all gonna sing it perfectly like the record. Like we have to.
That sounds like
there's
so
no backing
much
tracks.
fun. It's like the
And it's
Van
really
Trop
fun.
family of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
When can we see a show? Or is there any shows coming up this year?
We're trying to figure it out right now.
Okay,
It's
okay.
weird. The show
Coming to
stuff's
you
really
soon,
weird.
folks.
Yeah, for sure. We got to play. We played an album release show like last fall, which was like so amazing. But yeah, so we're trying to get
It's
stuff
probably
booked
so
for
fun
this
playing in
year.
front of people for the first time with a new ensemble, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
that first. It's euphoria. I can only imagine.
It was
so
really
much fun.
wild. We wanted to have like some practice shows or something because we didn't. But our Jenny lives in Maine, so it's like the logistics are kind of complicated. So we basically just had to play. We had like our first show was like 300 people sold out for our album release, and we had never played a show together before.
Oh my lord!
And we had a week to practice because Jenny was like in Maine and like couldn't come out. It felt very like high stakes.
Yeah, but then it kind of gives it, that jammy energy to it as well. And then
Yeah.
but like also, it makes it feel a little more spontaneous. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, what is going to happen?
Totally.
Like,
So are we
Oh,
gonna do this?
Stop! You guys are
Is
so
our career
good.
over?
Everyone there probably was like, "Oh man, this has been a band for 15 years." I'm sure you guys were amazing.
I think it went well, but it was like fun. It was like kind of a funny, scary scenario. I would never do that normally. Go like, oh, I'm gonna play like
Yeah.
our like L.A. album release, this big sold out show, and never have done. Usually do like a sneaky warm up show or something, or at least at practice, because the songs are really hard too.
Yeah.
Like the guitar parts are hard.
And the harmonies,
the
like you said,
harmonies
like,
are insane.
like
Every
getting
song's
locked in.
every song's 4-part harmonies that change constantly throughout it, and the bass parts are all like walking bass parts the whole time while I'm like singing the leads,
Oh,
which I don't normally. It's like because it's like Paul McCartney,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like there's like different. You're playing and singing different rhythms and all these things.
It's
and
like it's a challenge to your musicality.
Yes, it is.
Like big time, which you kind of
Yeah,
need
it
from time
was.
to time to be like, hey, like let me push myself a little
Yeah.
bit. Like when you're starting to feel a little too comfortable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for
speaking
sure.
of pushing yourself, I have to jump back. Would you say this is the craziest job you had coming up, working for this
Oh,
porn
yeah.
director?
Yeah, so coming up, it was like because I always had to have jobs where I could
And
just.
you had to get a month off from time
I just
to
had.
time.
I was touring all the time, so I needed something that I could go back and forth from. And I used to work at Guitar Center. It all started at Guitar Center.
I love a story when it starts at Guitar
Yeah.
Center. This is
They all
fast.
do, all the good ones. So I was working there, and I had this like customer that I helped a lot. And when I was applying for another job at like an Apple store, and he was there, and he was like, "Oh, you're applying for a job?" He's like, "Come work for me. I'm a director." And he's like, like I direct stuff for Showtime and HBO and he starts rattling off all these names that I don't know.
Oh god, the Cinemax.
Yeah,
right?
but I
Or-
didn't know. So he's naming things, and he's like, and all I hear is like HBO, and I think I'm like working for a documentarian, So he's like,
Sopranos, sick.
yeah, 100%, So he's like naming things like Red Shoe Diaries and all these things, and I was like, oh my god, like, a documentary filmmaker, like I'm going to be his assistant. So I like show up to my first day of work with like a clipboard,
You of course.
like some paper, like I don't know. I'm like,
right.
early 20s. And I'm like ready for my first day on the job. And I walk in and it's this like 3-tiered house in like West Hollywood with just all these nerds like editing porn on like the biggest screens I've ever fucking seen in my
Stop.
life. And I was like so scared.
Oh,
You're just like,
my
wait,
God.
And
what?
my office was in his bedroom on the top floor. And I was
What?
like, this is so crazy. But
Wait,
I like,
so his bed was in the room and you were just
yes.
at the desk?
And he never ever did anything creepy. He was not the best dude, but he never did
He
anything
never
creepy.
messed with you, thank God.
Yeah, it was like,
But you just like walk in a house, there's people editing, people
Yes.
are walking around half naked.
oh, well, and then I was like, I was going to quit. And then I was like, fuck, I just need this job. So then I worked for him for like a year. And I would be like, my job, like on porn shoots, I would like get everyone's like STD tests and like, like I would like hold fog machines in like blowjob
Oh
scenes and stuff
my
on the floor.
And they're like, here, put a poncho on just in
Totally.
case.
It was like one thing that was like really interesting
This is
about
such
it.
a fun story. Yeah, what a fun growing up job.
It was so crazy. And I mailed out like, porn DVDs and stuff. And then one thing that was like really interesting about it was like seeing how the sausage is made. So like
Literally.
they're like
sausage.
and it was soft porn, I will say.
Right, because this, like you said, was going on to HBO. So this was the late night. What is it?
Yeah,
This is back like in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
this was popular.
And this is like the fun stuff because like at least in this stuff there's still narratives,
Yes.
there's still stories.
100%.
There's even people that are still convinced that they're not in the porn industry yet and they are acting in these movies.
Exactly. This
Well,
seems like the funnest porn job to have if you're gonna have one.
It was, and I gotta say, they're very good actors because they would be like, it'd be like the craziest, hottest sex scene. And by the way, the whole room is filled with people when the people are having these
Oh,
scenes.
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like
20
10 of
people
us.
in there,
Yeah. And so we're all standing there for no reason. Like, we don't need to be there. And we're like,
But I can stay if I want.
yeah,
right?
totally. And so we're all standing there. And they'd be like, in the thick of this crazy sex scene. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, cut.
And then
And then they're like,
it
oh
off.
my God, did you go to Jennifer's party at the Standard on Saturday? Oh, did you see what Corey was wearing? Oh my
They
God.
just turn
Get
it
out.
off.
Like,
Yeah.
immediately. And I was like, what just happened?
It's all acting.
You didn't mean
and
it.
You believe them. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, I believed you.
And even from a work standpoint too, like when you think about like the porn industry is like one of the hardest working industries. Like when you think of how much porn is out there and like how much like does go into it, like it's a pretty like busy business. So like I'm an aspiring director and I told myself if I don't get to make as many horror movies as I want, I will go into porn.
Do it
Because
now.
porn is very interesting.
He did it under an alias.
You gotta have
So
an
that he could
alias.
still maintain, because he had like a non-porn career too as a photographer and director. So he did it under an alias, everything.
There's been a lot of directors that have done that. Most notably, Wes Craven directed a softcore porn movie. Wes Craven,
Really?
who did Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream and everything.
Oh,
I
we
think
gotta watch
gotta
that.
watch
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay. put it in
His
notes.
porn name, I believe, was like Johnny Snakeskin or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
yeah,
There you
about
go.
right.
yeah.
So there's a future for you yet.
Yeah.
There's hope.
Yeah,
God damn
there's
it, there's hope. Where do you think you've had so many jobs, you've been working where does all that work ethic come from? Is it growing up in Indiana with your parents that were hard workers? Or
I
where
think
do you
it's
think
just
that
like-
drive?
Well, I think it helps if you don't have parents that are paying for you.
Everything. Yeah, you had to
Because I
figure
was
out
literally
yourself.
like, my parents, when I was like, because I came to LA to go to graduate school, and then I didn't, because I just started playing in a band. And then,
so you did no school. You're like, I got a band. I'm just going to focus on
yeah, I
this.
was like, I'm just going to defer. And then I just like never went. And my parents were like, that's fine as long as you're covering if you're paying your own way,
Right.
that's on you. And so I was like, okay. And so I just had to, right? Like I had to work to like be able to do music. I had to like work to have money to go on tour, or like help buy a van or anything like that. I just didn't have a choice. It was so normal for me for my whole life, basically as an adult, to have to like do all the
There was
things.
literally no other option.
No, there's no option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're kind of forced to do that, like, because I'm the same way. As soon
Yeah.
as I was 18, my parents are like, "You
Yep.
are off the books."
Totally.
Like,
luck, bucko.
hell, when I was 16,
Yeah,
I
totally.
was off the books by the
Yeah.
time. But then it's like, so it's like between that and then also being like, an aspiring like independent musician, like, is like kind of like inherently makes you like, an entrepreneur in a way, and kind of starts planting those seeds of being
Right.
like, sustaining yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's an important. I think like I've had friends who. It's hard to say which works better, because I was gonna say I've had friends who have had like their parents pay their rent and stuff like that,
Help
like
them out for a little
consistent,
while,
not like
yeah.
a jam, right? Like sure, that's nice if you get into a jam or something, but like I've had friends who like literally their whole time, like in LA, like I was in bands with them and stuff like that. Their parents like paid their rent, and they just got to like stay at home and like fart around on music, and. In certain ways, that definitely helps people get ahead, because you can like dedicate more time earlier on, which would have been nice.
Yeah.
But in another way, I think it robs people of like a sense of like self-efficacy and knowing that like you got this and like you can, if shit hits the fan, like you will survive, you're a survivor, and like it gives you like a confidence and a work ethic.
Yeah.
And it tastes a little bit sweeter, I think, finally actually getting something on your own. You're like, oh, I didn't get really that much help from other people.
Yeah.
I think you'll agree, nobody gets through anything without a little bit of help from friends or
Yes,
something. But like, you know
100%.
what I mean? Like, I feel like working for something, actually landing it and nailing it, like, oh my God, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
I want to taste this victory again.
Yes.
Yeah, I
For
mean
sure.
that's a whole other layer too that will eventually go into your work and stuff. Like, I'm not one of the people that like believes in the like, oh, you must have pain to be an artist, but it does help a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, when you have those times where it's like it gets darker, because like, yeah, if you're just getting to work on music all the time and you're not worried about the money and stuff, it's like you're gonna have just all the feel good stuff all the time, which is, you know, fine.
But
then
I feel like even
where's
your
that-
feel
where's that
good stuff.
darkness coming
Yeah, and I also
from?
feel like even the feel good stuff isn't going to be as like sort of like
It would kinda feel
impactful.
yeah.
Because it's like you don't. It's kind of like what's good without evil. You know, it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that thing in a way where it is like. Even those good times when you listen to like old like feel good Motowny stuff, it feels, the reason why those are still like the best like feel good songs is because there's like there's soul behind it, there's like struggle behind it and around it, and it's like
You can feel
those
it.
moments are important
Yeah.
and you've like earned, it's like,
like knowing that it
earned it.
hasn't always
Yes.
felt good, you
Yeah.
know, makes it feel better.
yes, exactly.
Well, I just think it's so awesome that it's like, just talking to you right now, it's so inspiring, and like I feel like a lazy piece of dung. Just like I need to work harder. You are really an inspiration.
Oh,
but
thanks.
also, speaking of pain, I heard you
Yeah.
got a little accident over the Christmas break
Yeah.
because the fam moved to Florida, right? A
Yeah,
good
families
portion.
in
What
Florida.
happened?
Well, you know, it's a pretty like cool story.
We love cool stories.
Yeah, no, I just tripped over a cat scratcher
Wait, well, explain
at my mom's
cat
house.
What's a
It's like the cat scratchers
Oh,
are like
literal-
on the floor.
Oh my lord!
And I like literally, I just like tripped on a cat scratcher. We had 3 cats there because I fly with my cat Cheeto when I go to Florida because I can't be
love
without
this
him.
name of
Cheeto.
the cat's orange, right?
Yeah,
I love.
He's the best
He
little dude.
sounds so sweet.
He's such a good guy.
I love that.
Wait, did Cheeto push this in front of you?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, because he's probably mad because I
Probably.
had been gone for 2 days. He probably did.
Well, I'm so sorry you
Yeah.
broke your. You fractured your foot?
Yeah, it was like it looked like somebody took like a sledgehammer and just like bashed my
Oh
foot.
my
That's
lord!
so wild. Like, isn't it funny that like you can be out drunk and not have
Oh, I
control
know.
of your body, and you can make it home completely safe and
Yes.
it's all good, but the cat scratcher.
Damn
cat
cat
scratcher.
scratcher got me.
And then you're down there. Yeah, and then I like wouldn't stay off of it because it was like, I just love Florida retiree life. Like I
sounds like there's a
immediately
reason.
settle in.
There's a reason they do
Oh,
it.
there's a reason, y'all. Yeah. So I was like, I discovered shark teeth hunting because, like I said, my mom lives close to the shark tooth capital of the world.
So these are
Venice,
infested
Florida.
waters, and they're just losing teeth left and
So
right.
it's not like shark. There's something about like the geography. It's not that there's like active sharks in there.
But
It's
like the way that the
historically-
water
Yeah, yeah.
takes
Yes,
it
and it's
there,
like
yeah.
historically. So a lot of these are like really interesting old artifacts. But there's like you can go there and you can find like big shark teeth just like on the sand.
I think shark teeth look so cool, like out of the mouth.
Yes.
They look badass.
Oh, they're sick.
dude. Like really cool.
Yeah, and I became obsessed, but my foot was broken. But then I
Did you bring any back so we can make shark tooth necklaces?
Oh yeah, I have 60.
Oh, hell
I
yeah!
got
We're gonna.
60 teeth.
Me and Dev are gonna want one
Yeah,
of those. Yeah,
I know.
We got our name on it.
I'm very excited. But yeah, I was like so obsessed with shark teeth that I wrapped my foot in this bandage and then like put water socks, over it. Because
my
the best
lo-
way to do it is
right.
like get in the ocean after a storm when the waves are crashing and stuff and low tide. So I got up at like
Wow.
6 a.m. with my mangled ass foot,
Oh my
put it in like wrapping and then put an aqua sock over it and was just like in the ocean sifting for shark teeth with this huge basket I bought.
I mean, that's Florida life for you when the most pressing issue for your day is getting up early enough to
Shark
get
tooth
to the
hunting.
shark
Yes.
tooth, the prime
Yeah.
shark tooth hour.
Prime. And it was interesting seeing my like peers.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I was like, is this my future? Like the people that I'm seeing around me? Because there was like 3 other people that were like looked crazy as hell.
I love it.
That also got up at like 6 a.m. the night after a storm at low tide to
Shout
get
out-
teeth.
You're
Shout
the
out
biggest
to
badass though, because your foot was literally broken.
Shout out to Other Venice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, other Venice. It's weird, right?
Well, there's also another Hollywood too.
There
There's a
is.
Hollywood, Florida.
That one
Florida-
just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Venice,
They won't
Florida,
let it
that
happen.
sounds like it makes sense. It's a beach
Yeah.
town, but like
Right.
Hollywood, Florida, that's pushing
How
it.
dare they? Yeah.
How dare they?
It's like that's like right to our heart. What if we had Orlando, California? How would they feel?
That doesn't
you
sound
know what
right
I mean?
either.
Yeah.
That's a weird one too.
They'd be getting a lot of angry letters. That's
Oh,
for
sure. Yeah.
You've also had a lot of your music placed in like some ads. Like you've done Apple, Samsung, Riverdale, Shameless. We love Shameless.
We do love Shameless.
How did that even like come about? Like, I'm so curious about like how shows pick a song for something. I feel like either the person that wrote it maybe or a director's like, hey, I know this person. I didn't know if you could share. I find it fascinating.
Yeah. No, it's like an interesting like sort of like niche I've like gotten myself into, and it kind of just happened by accident. I think it was just like a time and place thing. Like I was
Right place, right time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was signed, and a lot of it has to do with my publishing company. So I was with Songs Music Publishing, which is a publishing company. They were independent, really cool, like a mom and pop shop. Except for they had like big artists like Diplo, Weeknd, Lord, you know. But it was still an independent publishing company.
I love me some Diplo.
Yeah, and they were like very, very like tapped into licensing. They were really good at licensing stuff. And so it kind of started on early in my career because I was signed with them. And they were like, with beginners especially, I think there's, it just works for a lot because I think it's like edgy enough, it's cool enough that like it works, people like it, feels fresh and cool, but it's also like poppy enough that it's not like off-putting, so it makes it kind of versatile and like...
Well, that's one of my things I love about you.
Yeah.
I feel like it hits so many notes. I did that analogy on purpose because
Right,
it's very. I feel like anybody can get behind it. Like it's just
thanks.
really good music. You're so freaking talented.
Oh, thank you.
And it's really good for like, you know, the discoverability too of like your music, you know, like,
Oh, yeah.
like I've noticed like so much more recently, like when there's like a TV show that I like and I follow them on Twitter, like a lot of the times they'll like do like, hey, the songs that were featured in today's
I love
episode.
that.
Like,
Yes.
I've done that so many times watching a show or movie. I'm like, what is this
Same.
freaking song? I love this.
Oh, I do it all
Yeah.
the time. I
Yeah.
discover stuff all the time like that.
Exactly.
I know.
Insecure has like a playlist for every
that's
season.
the one. They're my favorite.
good.
That's my
They're
favorite
real
show
good.
playlist. They're really good.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Well, you're also. I'll wrap this up. But you're in Disney's Raya the Last Dragon, which seems like a dream
That's crazy.
pick. It's so freaking cool.
The-
You're in a Disney princess movie.
It was crazy, and I thought it wasn't gonna happen because so they first requested it like fall of 2019 or something, and then but it's like a long, you know, movie stuff is a long process. You have to like wait and see, and so we're like, okay, this is great. Let's hope this happens, and then COVID happened, and then it was like, okay, the movie release is gonna be delayed. So we don't know if the trailer's still happening or whatever.
Oh,
and we were like,
dang.
oh no. And then they were like, okay. Then a little bit into it, then a little bit later into 2020, they were like, okay, it's back on. But this was like now in the heat of like all the Black Lives Matter stuff, everything that was happening politically here. And the song, and you know how polarizing the idea of like riots are, right? During this time, especially because it's
Sure.
like conservatives being like, no, you know, progressives, they're like rioting and all this stuff. It was just like, it became a really like polarizing political thing. And the song
It was
that
not a
was the
fun summer,
trailer,
yeah.
the song that they were going to license for the trailer is called Start a Riot. And that's
Oh,
the
no.
hook. It's like, let's start a riot. And I was like, there's no fucking way they're going to use this song. I told
way.
I was like, there's no way. I was like, look, we made it past all these other obstacles.
Right.
The movie is happening. There's no fucking way. And they still used it. Disney, who is like
Yeah,
a very
Disney of all people,
conservative,
yeah.
like such a conservative company. And I think they just
I think
didn't
that's
use
a
that
hard line
line.
to crisscross, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I think it
God
does
still happened.
I think it actually maybe helps that it was Disney because like this is a movie for kids. Like they're not thinking in their head like, oh yeah, like people are rioting in the streets right now. They're just like, oh, this song pumps me up, and I think that's a good counterbalance to like
totally.
Everything else kind
the
of going on.
seriousness and the heaviness.
Yeah.
Well, that is so fun that it still happened.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Regardless. I still haven't seen Riot, but it's on my watch list.
I actually haven't
either.
either.
There's too many
which
things
is
to
messed up.
watch.
Yeah.
Way too many things. Well, I could sit here literally all friggin' day and talk with you. This has been so fun. Will you come back someday?
Absolutely.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Can we go longer, Dev?
What's up?
Can we go longer? Can we keep going? We have to. I'm getting the call. We have to stop it.
We'll get a part
We want
2.
another hour with you though.
Yeah,
Please
I'm
come
around,
back.
man.
Because we
I'm
have
around.
a bunch of new projects coming up.
Yeah.
Everybody check out Beginners, L.A. Exes. Hopefully a tour, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe a tour,
Let's get
and
these
then
tours back.
Tell us again the song that's dropping this month.
It's called Broke St. Lucia remix.
Hell's
Yeah.
Super excited for that. I love
Yeah.
St. Lucia.
Me
Their
too.
first album, I remember I loved. I saw them back in like 2013.
Yeah.
And so
They were
good. So
great, and
I'm
they
pumped
did
for
something
that.
super interesting with the single. Like, I just love what they did with it. It was like super unexpected.
You're probably blown away. Like, how could anyone make this song different? And then they do, and you're like, this is.
It took
friggin'
it. Yeah, it takes
sweet.
it like a totally different direction. It's really interesting. So.
I
really
love
like
a good
it.
remix.
Yeah.
There's been
Yeah.
some remixes of, you actually showed me, Diplo did a jungle remix.
Yeah.
Off their new album.
That's cool.
So
Yeah.
that's so fun that they picked one of your songs.
Yeah,
They're great songs.
I'm very excited.
It's like
about
when
it.
it's like you gave your friend a recipe and you're like, all right, let's see how your dish turns out. For
Totally.
this
I'm
one.
adding a bunch more garlic.
Exactly. totally. That's right.
Well, Sam, thank you again. This has been so fun. Thank you for blessing us with your presence.
Oh no, thanks for having me. Yeah.
I'm
It's fun
Dan,
hanging.
over here at BetaWave, Music Man Dan on IG.
And my name is _Daddy Disco on Twitter and Instagram. And make sure you guys are subscribed on whether you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening in the audio feed on Spotify or Apple, leave us 5 stars and a nice little rating. That would be appreciated.
Please rate, subscribe, and review. Sam, let's give out your credentials real quick.
Oh yeah. If you wanna stay in touch, check out what's been going on with Beginners. It's just _Beginners. We have the same theme going on for Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and then for LAXs, it's just LAXs, baby.
Hey, we've all had them, right? We've all had some X's.
And it is spelled as confusing, so it's LAEXES.
Yes.
plural X's.
Yes.
Yes, and we'll make sure to have links to all that in the show notes. And we had featured Beginners on our BetaWave weekly playlist a week or so ago. So if you guys aren't following that on Spotify, every Monday we have new music for you. So you might have already heard one of.
Please do. She's amazing.
And but yeah, that'll go ahead and close us out until next episode. Stay wavy, guys.
Bye-bye.